Greetings, everyone. I am Dr. Noni Davis from St. C Academy and African Center School here in Durham, North Carolina. I am the current owner of the school, which I inherited from my mom and dad, my parents, William and Sylvia Davis, who started the school in 1996, and we are celebrating 28 years of operation. Um, I have had several conversations now. I think this is like my fifth or sixth conversation. And what we've been talking about the last couple of sessions is African knowledge of astronomy. I teach students ages pre K through 12th grade, but my science program that I've created is mostly for the uh, third grade up. And so I have made sure that I've introduced these topics to them. But every year we also conduct we'll have this big African diaspora day here at St. Cia in October. And we celebrate October, the very last Friday in October, in honor of our ancestors, which that season is also a time where people all around the world are celebrating their it's the Day of the Dead or some kind of ancestral acknowledgement as part of the harvest season or whatever. So Saint Cia continues or has joined that tradition by celebrating our ancestors. But the way we do this is that we have different presentations of African contributions all over. All over the world, right? Because it's diaspora. So we will have a set of kids who are selected from each age group, from the pre-K all the way through high school, who will focus on one particular topic. And so this past year we did astronomy, which is what I've been sharing with you, and I will complete with you with some of the objects that I will show you and the discussion we will have. But we also did a unit on housing and how the benefits of clay and mud structures, the ecological advantage of them, and also the how the architectural design did not require air conditioning or heating, and some of these new these structures, this particular innovation that is particularly African, are now being reconsidered for contemporary building structures or building materials. Um, we also looked at the evolution of basket weaving from the continent in here and compared to different styles from different countries, different areas, including the South Carolina basket weaving, gullah baskets. We also explored tie dyeing, how students used, and we looked at indigo, which is an indigenous practice in Africa. We looked at cola nuts and what was the process of taking cotton, making it into material, and then also dyeing it with those particular and natural products. And I'm trying to think, what else did we do? I know, we looked at different fabrics and the Ankara print versus mud cloth versus um, batiking, all of that. So I have the children explore the different things that our ancestors were engaged in, and so that they can see the evolution of that technology today. What are we doing today with that same thing? And so I'm just going to drop this one. If you wear indigo, well, you know that we're wearing indigo if you wear blue jeans. Blue jeans is literally an African concept. You have cotton and you have indigo. And so when you're wearing, we got your Levi Strauss or your Calvin Kleins, or whatever contemporary person you have now out here with these jeans, that is something that is direct from the continent. That is a style that we are still embracing today. Okay, so with that said, I will go ahead and I want to go ahead and complete this session on astronomy. We began with knowledge of acknowledging the 75,000-year-old Adams calendar from South Carolina. I mean South Africa. And then we did the 25,000-year-old Ishango bone, which is also a math tool as well as the first lunar calendar that is believed to have been created by women. And then we have I introduced the doggone Molly knowledge of Sirius A and B. Sirius A and Sirius B orbit each other, and it takes us 70 years for that orbit to be completed. And this knowledge was available to the Dogon people of Mali for centuries before Europeans even were aware of this particular binary star system. Um, we also talked about let's see, did I cover everything? Oh, the Dendera, the Kemetic calendar that was blown out of the temple in ancient Kemet or Egypt by I think the French. One of them blew this thing out of out of the ceiling of the temple, and it's in their museums right now. And I don't know if we'll ever get it back, but people keep hope alive. They're beginning to understand that they stole this stuff, so they need to return it. But that Dendera was a constellation, a Kemetic zodiac, which reflected that had star systems, constellations that were reflective of what was going on Earth, what seasons were going on Earth. And for example, the inundation of the Nile happens every January, and that was also reflected in the sky by Aquarius, a woman pouring water out, or someone pouring water out of a pot. And so it was indicative of that particular thing. And so each one of the seasons of the zodiac, each one of the zodiac constellations are reflective of something that was also happening on Earth in the Kemetic Egyptian worldview. And so today I wanted to talk about use Anthony Browder's book to talk about these Tekkens. I'm not sure. I hope that you are aware of what a Tekken is. A Tekken is an obelisk. If you go to Washington, D.C., you will see the Washington Monument. Well, that is modeled after the Tekkens of Egypt. And this is the one that my granddaughter fashioned out of clay in her presentation for Africa Diaspora Day. And the Tekken was made out of one solid piece of granite or um, stone, and was transported from the quarry, the rock quarry, in one piece, about 1 million, 2 million pounds easily, and carried to the Nile. And Africans had created barges which were able to support that amount of weight, so can and then transport this like 8, 9, 10 hours or whatever, several hundred miles up the Nile River from Aswan, I believe, all the way to Kemet. I'm not sure what I'm trying. I forget. I may have this backwards, but they traveled from Ethiopia up to Egypt. And so what is interesting is the amount of science that required. Extracting a 1 million pound stone predates anything that Isaac Newton was talking about. It predates their concept of physics, and it shows the knowledge of buoyancy and all sorts incredible understanding of math, of weight, density, all of what I'm trying to think with physics, with how to move objects from one. So what is that? Kinetic energy and potential energy, and force, and all of these terms that are related to science. So just extracting and moving this, and it could not be broken. You will never see a Tekken obelisk with a crack in it. So the degree or the determination for the highest level of perfection carving this obelisk, and with the symbols that represented Ra. It was considered a needle that was moving toward through the heavens to honor Ra, the god of the sun. As I discussed last week, we had a heliocentric understanding. So we believe that the sun was in the center of the solar system. And then to also, um, so you're carving it, you're moving it, you're carving it, and you're now setting the structure up. And just the massive amount of strength, energy, knowledge, understanding to be able to lift this rock, set it, and it's still standing. So many of them are still standing from what, the 2000 BC, 2600 BC. Some of these are still remain. And Europeans, the ones that are not in Egypt, most of them or several of them were taken to Rome and taken all over Europe, Paris, um, if, to stand in their empires, the stuff we made. So it's interesting. But anyway, I wanted to just also establish that these were considered to be sundials. And so Anthony Browder's book, which is an old book for me. This one is Nile Valley Civilization, Contributions to Civilization. And of course, there it is, the Tekken right there. And we call them also an obelisk. Oh, and let me make note, the Washington, D.C. Monument is in pieces, like Lego blocks, not like the original piece that you would see in ancient Egypt. Um, but here you have a picture of the obelisk. And then here we have a clepsydra, which I'm going to talk to you about that later. But the Tekken was also used as a sundial, and it was used to moderate time. And if you stand this one in, that we stood it up outside to see if it would work. And as the sun hits it, you can see the different times of the day. So it really is an effective sundial. Now, if you go to the Moorhead Planetarium over in Chapel Hill, um, they have a map of a world map, and they show time, and they don't even have one time zone listed on the continent of Africa. So this lack of acknowledgement of our contributions to this particular science is unbelievably negligent. I'm going to just put it like that. The very people who are the creators of a system of understanding time, constructing the framework for what time is, the moon, the orbit of the moon around the Earth, the orbit of the Earth around the sun, are not given any credit. And then also the regulation of time itself, with a sundial, are given no credit for their contributions, which is why I have this session, and this is why I teach my students this African centered science, so they will know that the value of their own ancestral knowledge, and how this is nothing new for us. This is what we did, but for colonization, and but for the Ma'afa, we don't even know what we would have been able to accomplish without these interruptions, these gross interruptions into our space. Um, so after I found out about this Tekken, Anthony Browder's daughter also wrote a book, My First Trip to Africa, which I think I shared with you all, which shows the inventions of Africa, and one of them was a clepsydra. My grandbaby, my 5-year-old grandson, made his own rendition with his comedic symbols. I think that's his name, Day on the side. And he shows how it works. It has a hole here. If you look on the inside, he has punctured holes, which determine how much time has passed. And I thought he did a really good job for five. He and his mama helped him do that. But the clepsydra was filled with water, and it is the hours of the day or night were determined by measuring the amount of water that was still remaining inside the clepsydra throughout the day or throughout the night. Um, so this was like the first clock. The water clock was one of the first clocks. The oldest clock in the world. It was from introduction of Egyptian clocks that the 12-hour day reached Europe, and this clock is about 3,400 years old, and nearly 1,000 years later, such clocks were adopted by the Greeks. That is a shadow clock, which would also be like a sundial. So our ancestors crafted ways to determine the time of the day, to determine the days of I mean number of days in a month, to determine the number of days in a year through their own creations. And so last week I also introduced Benjamin Banneker. Now, Benjamin Banneker is believed to have had some awareness of this of the historical legacy of his family. His father, I think I spoke last week, was a prince from Chad, and we know that the Chad region is close to the Sahara Desert, and so the knowledge of navigation through using constellations, using star patterns would not have been something unique to him. So Benjamin Banneker's knowledge of creating an almanac um, was probably something that was passed on to him through his grandfather who was a prince from Chad. He is not only responsible for an almanac which predicted a solar eclipse, but he is also, I think, responsible for the almanac. An almanac is used, we don't use these anymore, but farmers used almanacs to determine their planting seasons, to determine when fall was going to end, when summer was going to begin, when spring was going to begin. And these were all based on alignment of the planets, and in how they're in their movement, which required hours and hours of studying the night sky. And that this is what Benjamin Banneker did. And I think for a full year he was able to make these calculations and create. And he was the first African American in the United States to actually do a written document of an almanac that tracked these movements. Now, when he completed his book, it was sent. I don't think that they didn't publish it at first, because Africans can't read and Africans can't write and Africans can't do this and Africans can't do that. Never mind, he has proven that he is able to do this. So he had a friend who went ahead and published it. And then it was used as an argument against Thomas Jefferson, to prove that African people were capable of thinking, capable of processing thought. I'm trying to think the 5 things that Thomas Jefferson said Black people did. He said that we had no emotions except infantile emotions, something like we could not respond through a thinking process. We could not compete with Europeans in any kind of intellectual space. We only could do what we were told, literally, and there was no possibility of imagination or creativity. Never mind that the people who were building his house, if I don't know if you've ever been to go to Monticello, and then you'll see all the architecture, and then you're like, he did not do that by himself. So who created these domes that look like something you would see um, in the African architectural structures? Um, in his house looks like something that you would see. Literally, the designs of the roofs look something like something you would see in Africa, uh, what we would call hut houses or indigenous buildings. So these are the architects that built these. These were the carpenters. These were the blacksmiths who created all of that. So Benjamin Banneker wanted to counter that argument and use his almanac as proof that if you just leave Black people alone, you'd be amazed at what we could accomplish. Um, Thomas Jefferson did not listen to him, of course, but it did influence the way he wrote the Declaration of Independence. Unfortunately, the statement of I think it was a statement saying that all people would be are created equal was actually removed because of the South. The Southern colonies did not want, or well, representatives did not want that statement in there. So we know that Thomas Jefferson was impressed by some of this new revelation of, oh, there are Black people who can think on their feet, and they are intellectually capable, but he was so burdened down with this greed and this desire to maintain white supreme stupidity that this is what he did. I hope if I offended y'all, I'm unapologetic. Anyway, these are the things that were transpiring during that era, and Benjamin Banneker was a contemporary of Thomas Jefferson and used his knowledge of in astronomy um, to influence Jefferson's position on slavery. Um, Trying to think what else did I need to say. Um, I hope that you all will consider this is a some of these books to purchase. I said the Now Valley Civilization, contributions to civilization, but also let's see, this is Kaba Hiawatha Kameni's book. Is based on the Shabaka stone, an African theory on the origin and continuing development of the cosmic universe. Now, this book is not an easy read, so you need to have a real strong understanding of physics, of universe of the universe, let's see, a real strong root grounding in scientific knowledge. This is a really heavy book. I was able to move through it very slowly because I did understand, for example, when he introduced the idea that uh, the human body is made out of what elements? Hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, I think phosphorus, nitrogen, all of the elements that are in the human body. I missed one. All of the elements that make us living organisms are also in space. And so the book is shows you the goes through each step of how Africans created this balance between male and female. How throughout creation there was no um, uh, hierarchy necessarily of God energy, but there was this partnership and this yin and yang kind of relationship between male and female, and these each of the deities or the gods, or like even the rishas in the Yoruba, are representing some aspect of the creator. And but he's explaining it all through a scientific lens. So he's introducing terms that you would find in high school, college level science books and science curriculum. But I think it's worth the labor. Even if you have to stop to read a page, go look on the YouTube and see what that means. What is a quark? What is a photon? What is quantum theory? What are all of these terms that are related to this level of science? It's worth it because we need to have a grasp of understanding the intellectual framework that our ancestors were working in. It was so advanced that their mathematical concepts and their reasoning, and to have this understanding that is was so for Europeans, they were really at an elementary, maybe even primary level of understanding science compared to our ancestors. And we need to understand that, so that when we are moving through these fields, we're not thinking, oh, I'm the first to accomplish this, or I'm the first Black person in space, or I'm the first Black person to be at this level. No, you're actually just we're going back to our original space as African people. We're supposed to be operating the space, being a PhD, or being a medical doctor, or a master engineer. These things, our ancestors were doing this stuff at a level that I still don't think we've achieved. Where are the pyramids outside of Egypt? Why did Europeans, even the what is it, the Eiffel Tower, the Tour Eiffel, is is a structure that had to be pieced together. Our ancestors pull this stuff up in one piece, one solid piece of granite. And so, the Vatican has an obelisk from Egypt in it. They have taken Italy has an obelisk from the Ethiopians, from Ethiopia, Axum. And so they've taken all of our stuff, um, all of our inventions, and then try to tell us that it wasn't by Black people. I'm like, well, who did it? If it wasn't us, you are in Africa stealing stuff from Africans and then trying to take credit for it. So the whole point of my unit is basically for us to really delve deeply into our curriculum and our understanding of our own contributions to no the foundation, to our not contributions, to the foundation of what science is and astronomy. And I just hope that people can get these books and begin to read and explore and understand how great the greatness of our people. And that's all I have for you today. And I really hope that you all are enjoying these sessions and that they're benefiting you in some way. And so I'll thank you. Oh, let me see while I have some time here. Let's see, we've got about a minute left. Um, these materials can be made out of clay, and they don't take a lot of time. But I love for when we do science experiments or science projects with the children, to do as many hands-on projects with them, so that they can have it gives them an opportunity um, to retain that information. Uh, Project-based science is the best thing ever if you can do it. Also, so it's not just coloring, and I think we all know that, but when you can try to mimic the things that our ancestors did. So get some indigo and make the indigo and dye the cloth. Get some cola nuts, grind the cola nuts, find out about the process, and dye those things, because there's chemistry in that. You'll learn about molecules. You'll learn about the transfer, the chemical reactions, all kinds of stuff. But anyway, thank you. You all be blessed. Peace and love to you. Ashe.
You know how people love to enjoy food and don't understand how to flavor their food or how to replicate a meal? They're interested in supplements but don't know where to begin. Well, what I do is I take the guesswork out of enjoying flavor and wellness with my flavorful spice blends so that they can create delicious meals with healing benefits. Can Do Spice was created to help cooks at any level enjoy healing through food. Every spice blend was designed to give added health benefits of natural herbs. Every blend is complete. There's no need to add any additional spice for a delicious meal. Saving you time and money while adding supplements to your meals can be both tasty and fun. My earliest memories in the kitchen began with my father, Kenny Can Do Bond, so it was fitting that I would name this line after him. I have always looked to natural remedies to supplement the body, and I found myself hiding herbs and minerals in foods for my family. That's when it hit me. Everyone needs Can Do Spice. Everyone should be having this. It's an exclusive brand for cooks at any level who want to create flavorful dishes with healing benefits that can satisfy the body and soul. Add a little spice to your life. Give Can Do Spice a try.
I won't fold, I won't drop until we on top. Only going non-stop, non-stop. I won't fold, I won't drop until we on top. Only going non-stop.
I want to thank everyone for coming to the 2020 TAF Awards. This was a show like no other, people. This is the Grammys for dignitaries, educators, and support staff around the state of Oklahoma and worldwide. We cannot do this without the support of the people. So we thank you, I thank you, for being such a dedicated supporter to this movement for the Teachers Appreciation Foundation. I thank you.